here you have it. It's going to be the far leftists. Multiple brawls broke out between the groups as the pro-Palestinian mob prevented Jews from entering.
I'm just
going
to do this. We're just going to do this.
One pro-Israel supporter was beaten by the pro-Palestinian mob. He was pummeled to the ground outside the synagogue and was left bloodied, video footage shows. Now, apparently, even, I should pull this up.
Story centered around Israel to another. I want to take a look at the synagogue protest that took place on Monday. So let's go take a quick look. I believe this was in California. Correct me. Let me double check. I'm like pretty sure it was. Oh, I'm sorry. The event happened on Sunday. The news about it broke on Monday. Apologies. Am I wrong? Yeah, it was in LA. Okay, cool. Just double checking. I always hate when I don't know what state the news is coming from. Pro-Palestinian protests outside LA synagogue criticizes anti-Semitic after street fights with pro-Israel protesters. I would love to know, like, I love that, like the part of the news is just stating that it's been criticized as anti-Semitic, even though, like, you're a news organization. Could you tell me whether it is or isn't, or at least say claim something? Just it's been criticized. That's the headline. A pro-Palestinian protest held outside the Los Angeles synagogue devolved into chaotic street violence with pro-Israel counter-protesters on Sunday in an incident that several officials, including President Joe Biden, criticizes anti-Semitic. What's new? Biden's had shit Israel politics for a long time, so we can't really be shocked by this. The LAPD said it responded to two protests Sunday in the predominantly Jewish neighborhood of Pico Robertson, just south of Beverly Hills. Videos taken at the scene show police pushing pro-Palestinian protesters away from the entrance of the Adas Torah Temple and Orthodox Synagogue. Whoa, shocker. The police are not on the pro-Palestinian side. You really have to convince me of that. Chants for free Palestine from the river to the sea and long live Antifada could be heard from among the pro-Palestinian protesters. Participants blocked traffic, and video from the scene shows multiple altercations broke out in the middle of the street and on the sidewalks. Let's go take a look, see if we can find it. Let's see. Let's take a look, shall we?
Tense moments on Sunday during protests outside.
Nope, shut up. I don't need to hear the commentary. I'm already reading the article. Ah, yes, the fucking pro-genocide group up with their phones trying to film all the protesters. Yeah, that you know, that tracks. Let's see if we can get. Can you go away? Can we go away? Player fucking dimming, thank you. Like big shocker. Big shocker that the police would have zero interest. Let me go see. Well, I'll do this on the side. But let's go see if I can find like some oh, no, that Los Angeles will not be a harbor for anti-Semitic. Yeah, whatever. Synagogue hosted Israel real estate event. Oh, thank God, we're actually going to get to it. The protest stemmed from why is it not an Israeli real estate event? Like Israel, wouldn't it be Israeli? Because it's whatever. Real estate event on Sunday at the Adas Torah Synagogue, according to the synagogue security director and social media posts from organizers. The event at the synagogue was promoted by a firm called My Home in Israel Real Estate, a group that has helped to facilitate marketing events for potential property sales in Israel and in the West Bank. Oh, the West Bank, you say? Oh, the place that's like illegal to settle? You mean that place? So what you're telling me is that there are people who are protesting the building in which there's an event where people can buy stolen land after, you know, the Israeli government has purged it. Gotcha. Just so we're on the same page. Also, I found the actual pamphlet, luckily. I don't know if they're going to show it, but yeah, now is the time. Real estate in Israel. Yeah, like the end of the day, like they put this out, like this is literally for people to go and purchase the houses of dead Palestinians after they've been mulched or just generally kicked out of their living spaces by the IDF. So, I mean, you know, Let's see. Protest stemmed. The event with synagogue was we already read that. In response, pro-Palestinian groups announced plans to protest the event in a Friday Instagram post from the Palestinian Youth Movement in the LA-based chapter of the group. Our land is not for sale. Stand against settler expansion at Sunday's real estate event, selling homes to build Anglo neighborhoods in Palestine. The post then listed the synagogue. Okay, you don't really need the Anglo neighborhoods part, but it doesn't matter. Like what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? At the end of the day, their protest reasoning was valid. So, racist settler expansionists are not welcome in Los Angeles. The account wrote in a caption, "The blatant example of land theft is operating in our own backyard. The Nakba is ongoing and must be confronted." Well, actually, it's really funny because the expansionists of like racist settlers is the basis for like Los Angeles in general. Like, let's be really clear there. LA is not exactly known for not being a settler colonial project. LAPD officers line up in front of right. This is as always. Ready when you're a pro-Palestinian protester. Ready when you're a Black Lives Matter protester. Absent when you're a white supremacist like MAGA adjacent ass fucking insurrectionist. So got that. Dan Baum, the volunteer security director of the temple, said the protesters blocked the entrance to the synagogue until police arrived and pushed them away. It's unclear how the chaos escalated, but video shared on social media shows both groups taunting, shoving, and grabbing each other. Oh, geez. Both groups? Color me shocked. That you would tell me that the pro-Israeli the event goers who would again like to buy the houses of like probably not even cold corpses yet. Okay, gotcha. They started some of the violence too. Shocker there. Call me shocked. Like, so we can get an idea a little bit of how similar the talking points and how similar the rhetoric is at this point when it comes to online centrist media figures like Tim Pool over here and your deep state whatever mainstream CNN. We'll see how much daylight is between them two.
A bloody riot outside of an LA synagogue. The videos are crazy. Far leftists are very mad. Of course they're mad. Many of these people are
really
outright
likes the post-millennial, I've noticed.
They're playing politics and lying to you when they say they're not pro-Hamas. That's a fact. I am not
right. We're not even going to get into it.
Saying that every single liberal person concerned about Israel loves Hamas.
I don't think Democrats or left-leaning people are concerned about Israel. They're concerned about Palestine. Like, they're concerned about Palestinians, bud. I think you've got it mixed up. Most people wouldn't care which group was doing this. I don't know anybody who would be like, if only the Saudi regime was doing this to the Palestinian people, then I'd be okay with it. That's not really the perspective. But what's new? Tim hasn't met a leftist in his entire life, so it's fine.
I am saying that the far left extremists who are going outside and physically assaulting and attacking people, these people, when they claim they're not supporting Hamas, they're lying to you. But you know what? Many of them are outright willing to admit that they are. Oh boy. I guess we had to get into the Israel-Palestine issue, but not so much. This is domestic. The first thing I want to say on this is what most people have said.
I mean, it was a protest because there was a real estate event to go buy stolen land in Israel. So it might have been a domestic event, but it was an international or I guess the scuffle might have been domestic, but the event was international.
Could you imagine if a bunch of Trump supporters showed up outside a black church or even a Hispanic church?
It's fine. These are the trials I put myself through.
Would lose.
I take these slings and arrows for all of you.
They're between a rock and a hard place now. I tell you,
you wouldn't believe my
because
back.
You've got these Democrats facing
scarred by years of listening. Quite frankly, if I'm being fully honest, having to listen to like fucking Mark Levin and Rush Limbaugh growing up, like getting taken to school by my dad all the time, like hearing that constantly, so much more worse than Tim. So much more worse.
Can't like this Bowman's going hardcore, anti-Israel, anti-AIPAC, and all of these things. I am not saying he's outright wrong. I'm saying he's leaning into this to attract an activist voter base to save him in his primary.
Well,
it's a direction they're going.
Wait, so he got outspent 14-1. What the fuck do you like? No shit. Like it's literally like Tim is literally excoriating, whatever the word is. Tim is over here complaining about Jamal Bowman, mentioning that his opponent is having like $14 million spent on their race, and then being like, oh well, like that's anti-APAC, that's anti-Semitic. Like what? They're spending I think it's fair to be like, whoa. All this, there's $14 million coming into my district out of nowhere.
So these people are in a difficult position where they're going to lose Jewish voters. They know it, and they need to make them up some way.
They'll definitely lose Zionist voters. The idea that every Jew is a Zionist and in favor of Israelis' occupation
Jewish Democrats are going to vote for more
in and of itself anti-Semitic
Republican politicians, and that's what really matters to me in this story.
It's no different than doing like the all black people love watermelon and fried chicken. It's no different than like any of those kinds of memes.
Vote Democrat, they're going to vote Republican. Let's check this out from the Post Millennial. On Sunday, a California synagogue was targeted during a violent pro-Palestinian demonstration that turned into a bloody riot.
Wait, it started violent and it turned into... Do you see how poorly Post Millennial writes articles that they're like, oh, a violent rally turned violent. Wait, what do you mean it turned violent? It started violent, but that's the thing. It didn't start violent. They showed up, they protested, there were counter-protests, scuffles happened, then it got violent.
Rioters assaulted journalists, deployed chemical sprays, prevented Jews from...
Did they assault journalists? That entire CNN article didn't even mention that. And that's usually CNN's big thing is don't you ever hurt journalists.
From entering their house of worship and brutally beat multiple Israel supporters outside the synagogue.
Man, this is
one
like...
was left bloody, video footage shows.
I've heard of editorializing, but Jesus.
Outside the Adas Torah Synagogue in Los Angeles around 1:40 p.m. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators surrounded the house of worship and called for a bloody revolution. Jews formed a line in front of the synagogue to protect it, and the LAPD was forced to deploy crowd control munitions to deter unruly ceasefire agitators, according to video footage. There's just a beautiful bit of irony in someone screaming ceasefire while mercilessly beating other people.
Is there a video of that? Is there... Tim, my friend, my buddy, my guy. Is there a video of somebody assaulting somebody while yelling ceasefire? There isn't, is there? Do you think he's going to show a clip of that happening? Or do you think that's just like a thing he makes up in his head, like a lot of things? Kind of probably like his, his girlfriend who lives in another state. You wouldn't know her.
But can't say I'm not surprised. Look. If you want to talk about foreign policy, Israel's military actions, Palestine, etc., the death of civilians, and what this conflict means and how it should be solved, that's tough, man. I don't got good answers for you.
Wait, is that your entire answer, Timothy? It's tough? Really? This is big politics, man, and the best you can give me is it's tough? Wow. Man, Tim Pool, bereft of any political solutions to anything.
I can only tell you that the people in the United States do not represent either of those groups. It's the weirdest thing, okay? Some dude in LA who lives in LA and is Jewish and he's waving an Israeli flag is typically dictating military policy. The far left is screaming pro-Hamas stuff is not working with and dictating Hamas military.
Like, keep in mind, you can always find videos like this. Dude with a fucking Israel, like we can all do this. We can all just go and find the clip that we want to be like pro-Palestinian dude chilling out, hanging, just, standing around, bunch of fucking pro-Israeli guys push him, throw shit, do all this. Like, we can all go find these clips. They're all out there. It's all about how you would like to frame the argument, how you would like to frame the actual event. What the... Wait a minute. Sorry, I got off of that for a hot second. Was that a fucking cop I just saw? Dude gets fucking pushed. Did he don't tell me he really just asked the cop, like, are you gonna on. Look at but again, for people who are, for defenders of Israel, no. That's, that officer clearly did not see anything, untoward. No. Like, it is, and keep in mind, and Tim Pool would like to frame all of this as one-sided violence. That's all. I'm not coming on here to tell you that there was not violence on the pro-Palestinian side. I'm telling those who engaged in that it's not good optics and it's bad protesting. But I'm also here to make sure that people like this don't just get to go, nope. The pro-Israel side, angels, never engage in violence, never do anything. The same way that Israel gets away with that shit over in their country. We're not going to let them get away with that shit over here. There's America, goddammit.
It's so weird to me to see these people on the other side of the planet screaming and beating each other, representing their respective ideologies. Now, don't get me wrong. As it is to be expected, the Israel side, they're not typically the ones that go around smashing and beating people. And so here you have it.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was that? Do I need to show the clip? Do we need to do it again? I'll do it again.
It's going to be the far leftists. The Israel side, they're not typically the ones that go around smashing and beating people. And so here you have it. It's going to be the far leftists. Multiple brawls broke out between the groups as the pro-Palestinian mob prevented Jews from entering.
I'm just going to do this. We're just going to do this.
One pro-Israel supporter was beaten by the pro-Palestinian mob. He was pummeled to the ground outside the synagogue and was left bloodied, video footage shows. Now, apparently, even, I should pull this up, because even Joe Biden, let me see if I can find this story.
We can, okay, if that's the story you're going with, bud. Again, it's always people like this that want to hype, that want to do this. I found one example that suits my narrative and I'm going to push that. Even if somebody, as I'm pretty, I don't even use Twitter very often, but even a simple Twitter search will find you. I'm sure that probably happened at some point, but you're not concerned about this. But this you're not even going to mention. Do you think Tim's going to bring up that video I just showed? Do you think Tim's going to bring up any of this shit? Any of the violence done by the Israeli side? Fuck no. Fuck no.
Even Joe Biden. Actually, do we have it right here, actually? Yes. LA Times. Biden, Bass, and Newsom blast abhorrent violence outside LA synagogue during protest. I think we have the... Actually, I'll pull up the tweet so you can see his direct name, and they might have it in here. Here we go. The tweet from POTUS himself saying, "I'm appalled by the scenes outside the Ada synagogue in L.A. Intimidating Jewish congregants is dangerous, unconscionable, anti-Semitic, and un-American. Americans have a right to peaceful protest, but blocking access to a house of worship and engaging in violence is never acceptable." I'd like to give a shout out to our good friend Andrew Cuomo in New York, who blocked people from worshiping during COVID, and many other Democrat governors who...
Well, that's a public health issue, my friend. Timothy, do you not understand the difference between a public health crisis and a real estate event? What? First of all, again, you're protesting. You're allowed to block people's access to things. In most protests, they'll stand there and they'll go, wait 30 seconds. I'm going to inconvenience you for a minute or two, and then you can move on.
Did much the same thing to remind Joe Biden that...
Is that fucking Alex Jones World War III watch? Russia vows revenge on... Oh, my God.
Use of violence by police to stop...
The Russia is coming from within the...
Yeah, that very much happened under your political party. And don't get me wrong, even after Biden got elected, we still saw this. Americans have a right to worship. Well, you got everybody involved now. The LA Times reporting a violent clash Sunday between pro-Palestinian demonstrators and supporters of Israel engaged outside the synagogue. We know this. The incident, in which there were shoving matches and punches thrown, resulted in one arrest. Now, I want to stress, this is far leftists showing up to a synagogue. Okay, you want to...
Also, the idea that everyone on the pro-Palestinian side are far leftists isn't really true. It is in the sense of on this topic, the left-wing American progressive end is aligned with the pro-Palestinian movement. But in terms of our politics, I've had conversations with a lot of those, a lot of the with the decent number of the people there. They're not all like, you know, they're not all progressive, like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, they're not all like bastions of progressivism, especially from an American context. You know, some of them are kind of apolitical except for this one topic because they have family over in Gaza, and like there's a decent smattering of them that are definitely on the more like hardline side of things. Like I would probably put a I don't know, maybe like 20-30% of the protesters out there like on the more militant side of things, like kind of on the more right side in terms of their politics, probably more traditionalism, certainly more fundamentalist believers in the faith. But like that's how coalitions are built. Like you build coalitions around topics of shared interest or of shared shared opinion perspective, I guess. And like at the end of the day, like the effort to reduce the harm, the death toll of Palestinians is one that we can come together on. I would probably challenge, like, you know, like I have like, speaking personally, I have a friend who goes to a lot of these, you know, they're a former coworker and I see them all the time at these protests whenever we go. And, you know, they're rather like fundamental in their religion. Like they're very in the sauce in their belief in Islam. And like, do I agree with them? And do I like necessarily like agree with all of the inner workings? Like we've had those conversations before where I ask open questions and they ask like why I think this is weird or this practice is a bit odd and stuff like that. And like, you know, we're coworkers, we get along, we have to work together, all that sort of stuff. And that's the thing, you build coalitions. And are these all leftists? Probably not. But there's probably a coalition of left-leaning progressive Americans in there. Most likely also young leftists. So, I mean, you know, the idea that this is some like far left movement is, I think like, I think it's painting with a broad brush when it comes to these. Anti-war is far left. Even Democrats are pro-war. I'm anti-war too, but like, I don't know. I mean, like, so the whole thing of like being like anti-war is like, I wouldn't say, I don't know, like the anti-war movement changes over the decades because each anti-war, I think each anti-war sentiment throughout the decades changes based on what the actual war is. You know what I'm saying? Like during Vietnam, it was obviously like, you know, it was a lot more about the kind of the what am I thinking? The opposition to stomping on a developing nation because of its ties to communist Soviet Union, stuff like that. Whereas like the anti-war movement in the United States was, I mean, you know, like in the Iraq War, I should say, was more of a distrust of the government and a dissatisfaction with the proof given for our entry into the Iraq War. And especially after we found out that it was all just bullshit, then it was just, you know, it was just broad opposition to useless wars, because, you know, how many people's family members, you know, young kids went over to go die over there. But it kind of like changes, like, you know, I'm really only like pro-war from a defensive standpoint, I guess, which I don't know if that makes me anti-war. I guess it's just I'm just anti, I guess, offensive wars. But even then, it's like, well, World War II was an offensive war, but I would defend that. So it's just always, it depends. I don't really think there's like a flat anti-war position ever. It's not static. The anti-war position is not static.
You want to argue, yeah, well, the people with the Israeli flags, they were fighting too. It's like, but they're at a synagogue. Like, don't go to their church and start a fight with them.
Well, Timothy, they're not just at a synagogue. They're at a real estate event being hosted by a synagogue. They weren't at, they were at a worship center, but it wasn't for worship. They were there to browse the real estate of recently killed Palestinians.
With them. Take a look at this. They say no details were released on the individual, but the person, one person with a weapon, was arrested. Is facing a misdemeanor charge.
Like there are people who say like there are people who would say I'm anti-war. That's why, I want like the Ukraine conflict to end. But like there is no anti-war position on that. That isn't just Ukraine gives up land that they shouldn't. They're a sovereign nation. There isn't a position that aligns with that's anything other than appeasement to Russian interests. Beat someone up if they were trying to rob you. You got to do what you got to do. Like you wouldn't beat somebody up. I mean, like if someone tried to rob me, it kind of depends. Like it's one of those cases. Like there have been times. I think there are times in everyone's life when you kind of have to go where you kind of have to go like, if I'm being robbed, if somebody like pulls a gun on me or a knife as I'm like coming out of work and they're like, give me your shit, I'm probably just gonna give them my shit. Like I don't really like, it's just not that important to me. Like my cards, my whatever, like that's kind of like a here dude, like it's fine. Most likely, and like especially like at least with the people who are around my workplace, like most of those people kind of need a little bit of help. I've been in situations where like I bought people like stuff from 7-Eleven when they're outside. Like I don't like, that's one of those where it's just like, you always got to ask yourself, like, is it really worth like risking it to save for me, like $400 in the bank? Is that worth me like waking up the next morning? And most of the time it's not. It's just, I got too much to live for to fucking lose it over a debit card that I can cancel, and that you're not going to make it very far with either way.
Charge in connection with carrying a spiked flag, whatever that means. Put nails.
I'd love to see. I wonder if it's just a flag that has like the pointy end.
A house of worship,
like every other flag you can buy at Target.
Hatred has no place in California. Bass called the violence abhorrent, adding that blocking access to a place of worship is unacceptable. I want to be clear that LA will not be a harbor for anti-Semitism.
And keep in mind, I'm still skeptical that the blocking access was like a universal blockage of access. A lot of times people will be like, you're blocking me from getting in. There's a door like right over there. You can use that door. No, I want to go in through this door. You're blocking my access. It's like, okay, dude, whatever. I'm standing here. Wait a few seconds and I'll let you through. Like, okay, whatever.
And violence. Those responsible
also, it's a protest. You're supposed to be inconvenienced.
And held accountable, she said. President Biden also took issue with the protest tactics. Intimidating Jewish congregants is dangerous, unconscionable, anti-Semitic, and un-American. We did read this. Pro-Palestinian activists began gathering in front of the synagogue in Pico Boulevard.
Do you think this article is going to even mention the real estate event?
Officer Tony Im said they were quickly met with
counter-demonstrators,
what's it called? Many of them carrying Israeli flags. Why?
At least the CNN article mentioned it.
Why are you going to a synagogue? Like, what are you doing?
Tim, if you did any bit of research or if you read a better source, you might get an answer. Do we think he's going to get an answer, folks? Ooh, can I make a poll? Should we do a poll? I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I have that ability. Is that a thing I can do on here? Do I need to like, how do I, chat, no. Do I need to, oh wait, no, I know how to do that. Wait a minute. Hold on, wait a minute. Where is it? Should we? I have to install. Okay, maybe I'll do that at another time. I'll get the poll thing another time.
Well, look, I just gotta say, man, I think most of these activists purely
Just Stop Oil is sort of critical.
They hate Jews. That's it.
Just Stop Oil is pretty criminal when it comes to this.
I can already hear the America First people saying like Israel.
What do you mean they're criminal? I mean, most of the protests that they've done, most of the like actions that they've done are pretty harmless in the grand scheme of things. Like, what was the most recent one? They put like orange. I thought it was spray paint. It's like it was something else that like washed off with water. So fairly meaningless. I don't understand why right wingers support Israel. It's kind of weird. It's a confluence of issues. Blocking the highway is kind of annoying. I mean, it is, but that's protesting, baby. Like, at the end of the day, a convenient protest isn't a protest, because the point of a protest is to draw attention and to draw the eyes of the public. Because like what you want is to annoy the fuck out of someone and then to go, what the fuck are you doing? And then you go like, I'm in the street protesting for this. Why the fuck are you doing that? Because this is happening. And like, maybe that, like, it's not going to convince the person who you're annoying that like, they're not going to go like, okay, that's a fair argument. I'll just go and be late for work. Like, nobody's going to say that, but like, that's that, like, at the end of the day, you're there to draw attention to the topic. You create chaos, and not chaos in the sense of like violence, but chaos in the sense of the normal functioning of things to like force people to kind of engage with the topic a little bit. Stonehead. Still.
Israel is doing this. Yeah, don't care. I'm talking about the far leftists, specifically who hate Jews, okay?
Yes, we know. We know you only talk about far leftists. I'm aware that you only have smoke for far leftists. I'm aware, Tim.
I'm not talking about the liberals who are critical of Israel as they're allowed to be, or the America First.
Well, it's too bad the liberals are fucking useless now, isn't it? Oh, this is a perfect example. Okay. Inverted Mystic. This is a perfect example. What Tim just demonstrated is what I'm talking about. You can either have protests like at this protest, which do create headlines, which create a like flashpoint for conversing on the topic of Israel and Palestine, or you can have the Democrats' response, which has been what? Nothing. We've seen no movement on this entire topic for months now. Like, Tim Pool would rather the ineffective Democrats who do nothing and are ineffective in their communication, ineffective in their protests, ineffective in their activism, to be leading the movement because he doesn't agree with their position. At the end of the day, he has to cover this because it's headline grabbing, which plays more into keep the conversation about Israel-Gaza. Like, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Groypers who are critical of Israel as they're allowed to be. And in fact, I think
those are
should be critical of
anti-Semitic.
Israel.
They're Nazis. Aren't Groypers Nazis?
Very much so of Israel. They should not be getting our money. Long story. But
yeah, and how effective is Tim at delivering the message that Israel should not get taxpayer money? How effective is he in that? Not effective at all, right?
It's a foreign policy question. I am saying there are far leftists in this country, and there are people on the right as well, who outright hate Jews, and that is why they are doing this. And they will use the mask of Middle Eastern conflict to cover up the fact that they just hate.
Well, it's too bad that there's really not a historical trend of left-leaning like American political activists or actors who have oppositional views to Judaism and more so have oppositional views to the state of Israel, which again, tying those two things together is anti-Semitic in my opinion, but okay.
Jewish derangement syndrome. Don't get me wrong, there's also Israel derangement syndrome, because I'll give you my opinion on the foreign policy.
They've never gotten over that Trump derangement syndrome bar, have they?
No reports of injuries, though there was a video showing someone seriously injured.
I saw somebody injured.
But someone was injured because, serious implies
it was a brawl.
Going to the hospital and stuff.
Well, it was a brawl, bud.
The video appeared to show two pro-Palestinian demonstrators taken from an SUV and detained. Rabbi Herzl Ilunian told KCAL News the protest doesn't belong in front of a synagogue. I don't think the Jewish would go.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to engage in good faith with this one, Inverted Mystic. And I actually don't think... Okay, let me read this. All right, I'm going to be way out of line, but January 6th did draw a lot of attention. I'm not saying enter the Capitol, but like standing outside and being obnoxious is a good tactic. They went to the right location, but went about it the wrong way. So this is a perfect example of where, do I think that January 6th was a better protest? In the sense of attention grabbing, and like, so here's the problem. Here's where that falls apart a little bit. But the like spirit of what you're saying, you're not completely wrong. You're not. I'm not going to say you're totally wrong, because was January 6th was headline grabbing? Was it did it stir emotions about the topic? Did it did it move the like did it create political wins? Undoubtedly, absolutely. But, then they ended up breaking laws and, breaking into a federal building and stuff like that. And you don't want Just Stop Oil doing that. Again, that's like vandalizing a state capitol. But yeah, I mean, they talked about it for like 3 years. Yeah. Like, if you're asking me, and like, think about it from the perspective of the people who were running that protest. Think about it as from the perspective of the people who like organized that. Donald Trump and his like whole clique there organized that rally. It got out of hand. January 6th happens. And what are we looking at now? My dude is fucking tied with the incumbent right now to win the presidency. There is a plan for day one for how he should be governing. I'm not saying that it's good that it was effective. Just the fact that it was effective. Republicans galvanized their base, centered them on mad ass politics, but nonetheless, was it effective at pushing the party further to the right and accomplishing the goals of the people who were organizing? Absolutely. I don't think there's an argument against that. Was it harmful to Republican officials and Republican candidates writ large? Yeah, no, absolutely. Like after January 6th, it did get harder to be a Republican representative or a Republican running for office. Absolutely, because you had to have a position on January 6th. But did it accomplish pushing the party to the right, the thing that the people organizing wanted it to do? Yeah. I would prefer less effective Republicans, i.e., people like Ted Cruz, less effective. People like Marco Rubio, less effective. People like Jeb Bush, less effective. Like Donald Trump, for everything we can say about him, he is more effective at pushing that party and motivating the base of voters. So, that's you're not wrong. Not good, but you're not wrong. And it's the same, like, we have to recognize that between both these protests and any kind of other protests. Is like, is this effective protesting? Is it good protesting? I think those are like probably maybe the two things we need to tackle with. And I think what the group did was effective to a point until violence happened, in which case it wasn't. The same way it was a good protest until it wasn't. And that's a lot of protests. Most protests are effective. Well, not all protests are effective. Most protests are good until they're not in both those categories.
Go in front of a mosque, or the Christian people would go in front of a mosque, do such a thing. Funny, isn't it? I'm not going to blame Muslims. I'm not going to blame a person who is a Muslim. These people are bad people. There are people who claim to be Christian. They're bad people. I'm not going to blame Christians because bad people do bad things. I'm not going to blame Jews because bad people do bad things. I am not going to blame Jews because Israel is doing a thing these people don't like. So why go in front of a synagogue? Can't say I'm surprised, and I'm...
It's so, dude, like, if you're a Tim Pool watcher, you literally didn't get any of the information you needed to make an informed opinion.
Willing to bet most people are not surprised this is what they're doing. That being said, the people with Israeli flags are supporting a country, Israel. It is what it is. But I'll tell you this.
Well, they're supporting a state, but okay. Yeah. I mean, a country, yeah, but like a governing state, yeah.
I'll tell you this. As we wrap this one up, we'll have more on this probably tonight on IRL. The Israel derangement syndrome, as most of you know, really gets me. I'm really interested in anybody coming forward with maybe Saudi Arabia.
Same, but unfortunately we don't have. Unfortunately, as much as I'd like to see Biden get replaced, there's just nobody. There's nobody on the bench to take that spot.
U.S. policy to an extreme
we are in a no-win situation.
The dollar over. They just dumped the petrodollar. The agreement expired, and there's no plan for them to re-up, which means they're going to start trading now in foreign currencies, which will undermine U.S. petrodollar. The U.S. has been beholden to Saudi Arabia for too long. So much so
I'm afraid
that we are acting as their military in Yemen.
It might be coming down, brother.
It's nuts. Drone
that's,
strikes,
I think, what a lot of people,
raids.
especially on the left, are worried about.
Because the Saudis could dump oil
raids,
and they could screw over the U.S. economy.
What are we talking about? I wasn't paying attention.
The U.S. has been beholden to Saudi Arabia for too long.
How are we beholden to Saudi Arabia? Like, sure, we have oil deals, but we could also just use the oil we extract from our own country. Or, I don't know, crazy idea, we could just shift away from oil, like, I know it's an insane concept. It's like, what do we do? Saudi Arabia has a like global monopoly, or at the very least close to a global monopoly on oil, because it's such an oil rich country. What do we do? Oh my god. It's like, just build more electric vehicles, idiots. I mean, Biden did just put a tariff on Chinese EVs, so there's no reason why any of the American car manufacturers shouldn't be making more EVs. They won't, but you know, no reason why they couldn't.
That we are acting as their military in Yemen. It's nuts. Drone strikes, commando raids. Why? Because the Saudis could dump oil and they could screw over the U.S. economy. So these Saudi interests, they're deeply entrenched in the United States.
Power plant can produce 30,000 solar panels worth of energy.
Oh boy, yeah, that's right.
There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who have hangups about nuclear power. I'm not educated enough, I think, to make to really say yay or nay on that. I would probably have to research it, and I have a in real life job. But if you would like me to not have an in real life job and we could do research streams where I learn things, you can hit the follow button certainly, and tell your friends to do that as well, so that this channel picks up some traction. Same with on YouTube. There's I put videos out. I'm the editor, the streamer, and everything else. It helps me out. I'm just saying it would help, would motivate me to leave my IRS job. That's all.
And the funny thing is, you get these people claiming Israel did 9/11. I'm not
there you go, Inverted Mystic.
Saying this, and I'm
There's my boy.
Dude, we know the Saudis were involved. Okay, I just got to do this. I'm doing this.
What are we doing? 9/11. Oh my God! Now we're doing the 9/11. Okay, we're done. We're getting out. We're getting out before I end up with a bullet in the back of my head. From the U.S. government. Nope, we're getting out. We're getting out. Hello. You've made it to the end of the video. Something that only the strongest and elite of YouTube viewers make it to. So, as a reward, I will bestow upon you some wisdom, some guidance. You should subscribe to this channel. You should do it right now. It told you to do it earlier, but you were so good, you blew past that, like a pro esports player. You blew past that first ask and made it all the way here to the boss. And now the door opened behind me. And I think something is going to come and get me unless you subscribe.